I got into technology and startups like 2005-6 timeframe, and I was really young. I met a guy in Seattle randomly on Twitter. I moved to Seattle. I didn't know anything about technology really. We started like building this little idea where you could go find the MySpace and Facebook photo of someone based on their email address. And back in like 2005-6, this was pretty creepy. I grew it to about 100 million people in under 2 years and sold it to BlackBerry for about $50 million in 2009. What I learned from that is being young and lucky is like the worst disaster in life, because then you think you know what you're doing. And so then I went on to move to San Francisco because I wanted to like play in the major leagues. I knew how to build tech companies. I would probably call my leadership philosophy at that time invisible-based leadership. Long story short, the next company was called Zarly. Right at the time when like Uber and Postmates and all these things are happening, we were one of those companies. So ours was push any button, send out to a local person, they can get it delivered, done, whatever. We raised about $35 million in under a year and a half. 3.5 years later, the whole company got recapped, everyone lost their money and everyone was miserable. And it was probably like the most painful and humbling experience of my life when I finally looked around and realized that like we had all the money in the world, we had the best talent I've ever worked with, and everyone like hated their job. We weren't honest that the company wasn't working or the product wasn't working. So therefore I kept telling people what to do. I think at that saddest point of my life, I flew to New York, and then David's speaking and I'm like, fuck. Really fascinated by this idea of, you know, intent and living with your intentions and being really aware of the culture and the environment you're creating that works for everyone. And our next company, Assist, I was really lucky to co-found it with Robert Stevens, who was the co-founder of Geek Squad and CTO of Best Buy for 10 years. And we really built all the first kind of bots and automation that powered all of Google Assistant, Alexa, Messenger bots, WhatsApp, for the last like 7 or so years. And we got acquired last year in 2019. It was a good exit for everyone. And we built a global company that had 10 countries and 15 states. It was my first time being CEO as well. And so I really, from the day one starting that company, got to try my hardest to build an intent-based culture. And it changed everything. I questioned myself for 7 years running Assist if David was full of shit or not. I basically, would question, is IBL working? Up till 45 people, no one quit. And in technology, everyone quits every 9 months. And I'm 5 years in and not one person's quit. So for me, I was like, I guess I'm doing something right. But the moment that I realized all this practice worked was mostly because I did it wrong. And I'm sitting with David in Philly, and our highest performer in the company, her name's Amanda. The whole morning was a total train wreck. 5 p.m. that night, the game's happening no matter what. I thought I was going to be able to hang out with David and interview him and like, hey, let's hear about your new book and all this kind of stuff. He shows up and I'm in like stress chaos mode. There's like 30 people on a video call and nothing's working. The code's broke, whatever. Finally, about 1 o'clock, we get it working. Amanda's never seen the product that we had to like use as our backup plan. So she's really nervous, doesn't really know what to do. And she calls me and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go to lunch with David. I feel bad. He flew to Philly, he's hanging out. And within 5 minutes, she calls me and she says, hey, I don't feel comfortable with this like thing. When you get here, can you like help me or whatever? And the game's in 4 hours. I said to her like 3 times, like, do you need me to be there right now? Would you tell me? And she's like, yeah, no, I don't need you here. We're fine. So I hung up, and David, literally across from me, he said to me like, what did you do wrong? And I was like, I don't know. I felt pretty empathetic. He said, call her back and say, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much would you appreciate if I was there? And I called her back and I said, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much would you appreciate out there? And she goes 5, like instantly. And I was like, oh God. And I looked at David, and it was all these years of practice. I actually did it wrong. I didn't ask a how question. I asked a binary question. What I can offer you is a place to work with a self-aware leader that is a better place to have a work that is really life. I left at 4:45 every day for 7 years because I knew that I didn't want the mothers in our office to feel like the young dude here is making me feel bad staying late. I was very intentional about that, and I would tell them about that. We had a flexible policy. I would talk about, listen, I don't understand why you commute during commuting hours. It literally doubles the commute. Why don't you stay home from 8 to 11, get your kids ready, spend time with them, be able to work more focused for 3 hours? Everyone was like, I just want to work there. Like, that's flexibility. That gives me control of my life, and then I can make decisions on it. Those like simple things were so powerful. Giving them an option to work in a different way, I find is more valuable than the idea. Tied into intent-based leadership, I never wanted to give perks that didn't work for everyone in the world or made people more productive or gave people time back. David says this, and it's a quote that's influenced me. It's like, give people decision-making control. Step 2, like do step 1. That's it.